By the way, in Japan, you've got to take your hat off to the Japanese. They've published Das Kapital in a manga version. I think that's what they call it. You know what a manga version is? Do you? I didn't know till this afternoon. I had to ask. So I've read this. A manga. What the hell is a manga version? It's one of these comic things. You know, how the hell you can publish Capital in a manga version? Although in Shanghai, apparently they're producing a musical based on Das Kapital. I mean, that's a bit more incredible. How on earth can you make Das Kapital? I suppose there's tastes for all kinds of things. They're looking to capital because there's no alternative. I'll just give one, not to bore you, but I'll just Business Week, for example. Please, there must be places here. If comments can move over a little bit and let the masses in. Welcome. I was just saying that the bourgeois economists have absolutely no explanation for what is occurring, and therefore there's a growing interest in Marxism in general, Marxist economics in particular. Business Week published recently an article with the title "Marx to Market." I got some quotes, but I haven't got time to deal with all these. But I'll give a couple of. It expressed. Please come in. It's okay. Plenty of room. Thank you very much. The Business Week expressed astonishment. I mean, good heavens, after the collapse of Soviet Union, end of socialism, end of history, there are still people that take Marx seriously. Yes, my friends, you better believe it. Let me just give you a couple of names. This is from the Business Week article. George Magnus. Ever heard of him? Senior economist at UBS Bank. That's the major. That's one of the great temples of finance capital, the great Swiss bank. He published an article on the UBS website with the following title. Very interesting title. Give Karl Marx a chance to save the world economy, says George Magnus. I mean, this is staggering stuff. Astonishing stuff. And he points out another thing. He says, I quote, "The spirit of Marx, who is buried in a cemetery close to where I live in North London, has risen from the grave amid the financial crisis and subsequent economic slump." He goes on, and this is what he writes. The process he describes is the process he describes is visible throughout the developed world, particularly in the US. Companies' efforts to cut costs and avoid hiring have boosted US corporate profits as a share of total economic output to the highest level in more than 6 decades. This is in the States. Oh, by the way, hold that quote in your head for a moment. The highest level of corporate profits in the States for 60 years, and yet at the present time, it was just published last week, these figures, that poverty in the United States, the richest country in the world, poverty in the United States has jumped to 15.1% of the population in 2010, which is 46.2 million Americans are now living in poverty. These are official figures which understate the real figure. These are the highest figures for poverty for 52 years. So there you have it. The highest rate of profits and wealth for the last 60 years, and the highest rate of poverty officially for the last 52 years. There are soup kitchens in America. There are tent cities in America. And you see the result. If you just put your television set on, you see the result. You have this very interesting phenomenon of a demonstration in Wall Street. Or at least it's not quite in Wall Street, because the American democracy is such that they wouldn't allow them to enter Wall Street. They put a barricade there, manned by the police, and they gassed the people, turned on them, arrested hundreds of them. It started off as a movement of the students. That shouldn't surprise us, by the way. You see, it's true that the students, we mustn't get carried away, it's true that the students can play a really independent role in the class level. However, in all countries, at all times, students, and the intelligentsia, if you like, has always been a sensitive barometer which accurately reflects the pressures, the tensions, the discontent, the subterranean contradictions, if you like, which beneath the surface are building up. And therefore they can move before the working class moves. Now that's what's occurring in the States. And of course, a lot of these kids turn up, they obviously don't have much clue, they're new to politics, they turn up dressed as clowns, or dressed as zombies and so on. I think that was directed at the people who work in Wall Street. Yes, but immediately it was joined by the workers, by the thousands of workers, trade unionists, auto workers, teachers, all kinds of people turned up because they said, look, these kids are expressing what we feel, because we are under attack. Our living standards are falling, and these fat cats are living off our back, and it's got to stop. There are people, as I speak, on the streets of New York. I'm not talking about the streets of Cairo, or Tunisia, or Caracas, or Petrograd in 1970. I'm talking about New York now. Middle-class people, or people that used to consider themselves as middle-class to be more accurate, that are talking in revolutionary terms. There was a woman that was interviewed last night. I don't know if you saw that. I think it was on Newsnight, or Channel 4 News, I think it was. The journalist interviewed this woman. She was obviously a middle-aged woman, hardly what you'd consider to be a raving anarchist or a Bolshevik agitator. Respectable, middle-class lady, maybe a teacher or something, maybe a retired, I don't know. Middle class, obviously, as well. She said the following: we need another American revolution. That's what the woman said. I think that the reporter's jaw dropped. But you see, the fact of the matter is this. 20 years after what was supposed to be at the end of history, the wheel of history has turned 180 degrees. And things, as Marx explained, as dialectics explain, Marxist philosophy explains, sooner or later everything turns into its opposite, and that's what's occurring. Hence, the interest which is being shown. Now, I must quote a little bit more from this chap Magnus, what's his name? George Magnus, that's right. He says, US income equality, meanwhile, is by some measures close to its higher level since the 1920s. George Magnus is right. Chief economist of the UBS. These guys are worried. They are seriously worried, and they're right to be worried. Before 2008, I'm quoting all the time from this Magnus fellow. Before 2008, the income disparity was obscured by factors such as easy credit, which allowed poor households to enjoy a more affluent lifestyle. Now the problem is coming home to roost. Yes, and it is an indissoluble problem. It's an indissoluble problem. It really is quite amusing that the Americans are lecturing the Europeans. You know, there's a seat here, but okay, I won't bite you, I promise. Oh, there we are. He thinks I'm going to bite him, obviously. Marx is not really like that, you know. It's all lies. But you see, the Americans are lecturing the Europeans. You must do something, you must solve Greece, you must do something. What the hell, what do the Europeans reply, what the hell are we supposed to do? You tell, oh, by the way, you're lecturing us, what about your deficit? Which is immense, which they can't resolve, and they're split down the middle. The Republicans and Democrats are split down the middle, which explains this enormous ferment, which you see everywhere. Now, you see, if we could just return a moment to the general world situation. Incidentally, let's return to the title of the speech, in case you thought I forgot. It isn't just that Marx was right. Why was Marx right? Now, you know, the most modern book which you can read was written over 150 years ago by two young fellas. They were very young. Written in 1848. I'm referring to the Communist Manifesto. Hands up, all of you that have read the Communist Manifesto. Put your hands up. No, not bad. Okay, right. So read it again. Read it again. Those of you, listen, those of you who have not read the Communist Manifesto, I appeal to you, please read it. Let's make a little test here. Let's make a little challenge. I mean, I assume that in this wonderful temple of learning, that there must be a library. Am I correct, or have they abolished that as well? Is there a library? You don't know? Fine students that don't know there's a library. Is there a library?
No.
Yes.
No. Well, there must be.
Building.
Okay, not in this building. There must be a library somewhere. There's a very good one around the corner. It's called the British. Oh, it's not there anymore. They've moved it. Anyway, it's in St. Pancras. terrible place. Go to the British Museum. If I go to the British Library,